all throughout the shore, including it is at the Tuckerton gift shop. So you can buy it there if you stop by, if you'd like to do that. And in addition, it's throughout the Jersey Shore. I also write for New Jersey Monthly Magazine, Asbury Park Press, and I write frequently about on a blog called the citypulse.com, and that's actually where I have written all of my stories about my Jersey Shore walk. So let me take you a little bit on my walk, why I did it, where I went, not all 60 or 59 beaches, and then we'll talk a little bit about some Christmas activities as well. So I'm going to grab the screen here. Hopefully you can all see me, and we're going to go into, isn't this fun? Slideshow, play from the start. There we go. So thank you again for having me. So I had some friends visit with me last year in October, and they said, hey, let's do something different. I said, well, why don't I take you down to Asbury Park? And I said, let's walk, but you know what? Let's walk. You guys up for a walk for a couple miles, 2-3 miles? And they said, sure. So I said, well, wait a minute. These towns, starting with Asbury, are all connected with a common walkway or boardwalk, and that what if you could walk you could walk a bunch of towns and you could see so much in a very little bit of time. And so as we walked from Asbury Park to Avalon by the Sea, I started to sort of calculate in my head, just in 7.5 miles of the Jersey Shore is a contiguous walkway, essentially from Asbury to Seagirt, that goes through 7 individual unique shore towns. 7 towns in 7.5 miles. There's not a place on the coastline of America, whether it's Texas or it's the Pacific or the Atlantic, that has so many diverse towns in such a short period of time. So I thought, well, what else could I discover? What if I walked every beach town? What would I learn? And of course, because I wrote the book, I thought, well, I already know everything there is to know, but of course, how little do I really know about anything, as it turns out. So one of the challenges was, people have asked me, how did you do it? Well, I did a little challenge by, sometimes my wife would take me, she would take me to the start of a walk, and then we would walk, and then I would walk to the end, and she would meet me in the car at the end. Or sometimes I would actually take an Uber to the last part of my walk, and then I would Uber to the first part. So I did this in a series of segments, a couple of like 3, 4, 7, 10 miles at a time. And I did it not every day for a series of days, but over a period of time from April to August, where I decided I would walk every beach. And in my head, it was easy enough to divide up those beaches. Sandy Hook, the Island Beach, is one big section, the northern section of the Jersey Shore, then is separated by Long Beach Island, which is 18 or really 21 miles, as we'll get to. And then the last part is from Brigantine to Cape May, which is a little more complicated because even though you can pretty much drive that, you are crossing bridges from Brigantine to Atlantic City, from Longport to Ocean City, and on and on. But I figured, look, I can do this. I can capture this. And so that was what I did. I decided I would walk each beach from the very northern point to the southern point, and that I would photograph as I went along, and then I would write about each park, wildlife area in town, and then try to convey that to people as I did on my journey. So my first stop was in Sandy Hook, which is actually close to where we have a house in Seabright. And I thought, well, I know everything there is to know about Sandy Hook because I've been there dozens and dozens of times. But it turns out, particularly at the very northern tip of Sandy Hook, where you have to walk out almost a half a mile to get to the very northern tip, you see some really amazing wildlife. It was there where the oyster catchers are here on the lower right, and the piping plovers, where the Park Service had put netting up for them and actually built kind of houses for them so that they were protected, not just roped them off, but very complicated houses. It's also where you can see vultures on these barns. And then it has one of the best places to easily see osprey in all of the Jersey Shore because there are a number of old derelict, unfortunate buildings at Fort Hancock where the osprey, as you can see in the top right here, have taken to using the chimneys and the roofs. And in April and May up through September, it's just a wonderful opportunity to see. Often you can see often a dozen different osprey flying around, and then you can watch the babies as they hatch and as they get out of their nest and as they fly away as well. And you can do it by just driving, and you can stop, and with a simple pair of binoculars or even just your naked eye, you can see most of everything. This is one of my favorite pictures from Sandy Hook. This is a church that they use, and the light happened to the sunset, happened to hit the light on the back end and go all the way through, and it looked like the sort of chapel was on fire. The other thing you would learn when you go to the very northern tip is that the channel that goes around Sandy Hook it feels like it's 20 yards away. And you can see these giant container ships that are coming out from Newark that are going around Sandy Hook. This is where they go. You could easily swim out to these large boats that sit at the very, very northern tip of Sandy Hook. And if you are a nature lover and a bird lover, that would be the place in Sandy Hook I would encourage you to go and walk all the way to northern tip, particularly on low tide, because the sandbars stretch, it seems like, almost all the way to New York and to Coney Island. It's also a great place in the February, March, April, where you can see the seals where they hang out on the rocks. And this is a particular place on the bay side, about midway through the Fort Hancock buildings. Only at low tide they're there. At high tide, they all disappear. But you can see as many as 100 on a given day. And then, of course, when it starts to get warm, they all head up north to have their babies. So I'm not going to tell you about every town I stopped at, because there's 60 of them, but I thought I'd just point out some fun stuff that I learned or discovered on the way. So there's a beach about 6 or 7 miles south of Seabright, Long Branch. And Long Branch has 3 different sections. One is the main Long Branch section. One is the neighborhood of Elberon. And in the northern part of Long Branch is a county beach called Seven Presidents Beach. Now, if you do a little research, it turns out that the 7 presidents really spent almost all their time in Elberon, and almost none of them lived or spent any time at Seven Presidents County Park. But when I looked at the history of it, there was something specific on the Monmouth County Park site that said that Nate Salisbury built a series of cottages, and it was where Buffalo Bill spent his summer with his Wild West shows. Now, I happen to have written a musical that included Buffalo Bill in it, and I thought, I don't remember anything about that. So I did some further research, and it discovered that Nate Salisbury was a business partner of Buffalo Bill, and he built, unrelated to his partnership with Bill, and with Bill not an investor, he built 9 cottages in this section, the northern section of Long Branch, called it the Reservation, from 1899 to 1909, and that Buffalo Bill never spent any time there. He, in fact, wrote to his friends that he didn't like the East Coast, he didn't like New York, and he couldn't imagine why Nate Salisbury would ever spend his time there. He did visit twice with his traveling show, but only for a day. So one of the things I learned is particularly about the shore, not to give the Monmouth County Parks Department a hard time, but is that people have, they hear rumors and ideas and stories, and those stories suddenly get part of the lore, but they also become fact about the shore. And that if you sort of dig a little bit further, sometimes you can find sand crabs and strange stories that are underneath the sand. So a little further on from Long Branch is one of my favorite little beaches. This is the tiniest and newest beach on the Jersey Shore. It is the town of Lock Arbor. It's only 2 blocks. The beach is only 2 blocks long. You have Allenhurst to the north and Asbury Park to the south. The beach, as you walk along the beach, you don't know you're there, except if you see this small red brick building on the right. And only if you go up to the buildings that say Loch Arbor, you just assume that, well, I think it's part of Asbury Park, or I think it's part of Allenhurst, but it's not. It's a tiny beach with really no residential, I mean, it has a residential area, but with no business district to speak of. And it's the newest town because they broke away from Ocean Township in 1957 to create their own town. So Ocean Township at one point had a foothold on the Jersey Shore at many points, and this was their last foothold. So once Loch Arbor broke away and became their own town, Ocean Township no longer had an ocean. And Loch Arbor only has 200 people that actually live there. So as I mentioned, I was writing about the towns as I went along, and I would photograph them. And I was posting them at Jersey Shore Walk and on the City Pulse. And I was starting to get, I would get literally a couple thousand views or hundreds and hundreds of views of each story. So I get to Bradley Beach, and Bradley Beach is sandwiched between Ocean Grove to the north and Avon by the Sea to the south. And Ocean Grove has this wonderful Victorian flavor to it. And Avon likes to think of themselves as Spring Lake-like, and that they're sort of fancy. But Bradley Beach is just sort of, I called it an everyman's beach. And so I wrote this story, and suddenly it lit up, but in a negative way. People said, how can you call us this? This is terrible. We're just as good as everybody else. I was getting lots of DMs telling me that I should stop writing and stop doing what I'm doing, but I continued on anyway, because what I was trying to do was just to discover the beach and to see what it looked like as you walked along. How did it change? How did the character of each town appear to be different as you cross from one to another? On the left is one of my favorite mini golf courses, the Shipwreck Island, here right on the boardwalk in Bradley Beach. And it's a interesting fact. It's designed by a company in Wildwood that has designed more than 300 mini golf courses across the United States. So if you go to a mini golf course on the Jersey Shore, at least half of them are designed by that firm in Wildwood. So then I'm walking further on, and I come to the town of Seagirt, and I'm actually walking with someone who lives in Seagirt. And I look on the map and I see that there's this beach, and it's the National Guard Training Center beach. And I know from driving near it that there's this big fence that goes around it. And I said to my walker friend, I said, so can I walk on the beach at the National Guard training? Oh, no, it's all fenced off. Really? Are you sure it's fenced off? Oh yeah, there's a fence all the way around it. So I get to the beach, and I kind of walk around it, and then I get over to Manasquan, which is the other end of it. And as I walk out of the beach, there's no fence anywhere. I look around, I walk around, and I discovered that this beach, very simple beach, is not only is it open with no fencing, but it's a free beach, one of the few free beaches, 365 days of the year. That it is that the colonel who runs the training center beaches, we would love to have people on beach. You can come anytime you want. So you can actually park for free in Seagirt, and you can walk over to the National Guard Training Center beach, and you can then sit on the beach for free. And as you know, many of you know, during the summer, you often have to pay for beach access. So this was a great find. And in addition, if you are a first responder, if you are an active military person or retired military, they have special discounts for parking within the grounds of the fenced grounds of the training center, and even have essentially a campground where you can camp almost for nothing at the Jersey Shore and access the beach for free. So if you know anybody who is retired military or active military, or even a first responder, encourage them to go to this website and get more information, apply to bring their car there for a permit for parking, or to even bring their camper. Okay, one of my favorite crazy parts of the Jersey Shore is a section of Toms River Township. Now, Toms River Township is a large township. It is mostly inland, obviously in and around Toms River. But they have two sections that are part of the town. One is Ortley Beach, and then this section, there are 10 private beaches, none of them public, in 1.5 miles of the Jersey Shore that when you walk, each of them has their own rules, their own beach badge. And they're these long, horizontally thin beaches that stretch one to another. And what's interesting about them is because they're all private, essentially private, cooperative communities, they have their own rules for things like paving. So there are dirt roads on one of the beaches, and then the next beach, one of these 10, has paved roads. Some of them have restrictions of access. Like there's a beach that says you're not allowed to walk your dog on the roads. I don't know what you do if you have a dog. I don't know where you even take it. You can't take it on the beach and you can't take it on the road. So, and the housing here is really kind of fun and crazy looking, these small cabins that have existed for hundreds of years. So one of the things I often did was trying to find more like, how did this start and where did they come from? So I even contacted, in this case, the Ocean County Historical Society. So do you have some basic information about how all these towns started? Why are there 10 and where did they, and they said, we don't have a clue. This is like the great mystery of the Jersey Shore. How they started, why they're there, what do they do? But just don't sit on the beach during the summer because you may have to, and don't move to the next beach because you might have to buy 10 different beach badges in the course of 1.5 miles. So at the very tip of the northern section of the Jersey Shore is a really amazing park, Island Beach State Park. And this is a picture I took. You can see they allow some campers and fishing vehicles throughout the year, but really this is one of the most beautiful stretches of the Jersey Shore. But what I found interesting about this beach was, I would make very strong effort to understand exactly how far I was walking each time, because of how long is it going to take, who's going to pick me up, should I have an Uber there, that kind of thing, the logistics part of it. And that there's all references to this beach are that it's 10 miles. So I walked the first 8 miles, which is parallel to the one 2-lane road that goes through the park and then ends. And then I assumed, because everybody said it was 10 miles and that the road was 8 miles, that I had 2 miles more to go. So I meant I'd have to walk 2 miles and then walk back. Well, it turns out it's not 2 miles. That's just, it's less than that. It's maybe a mile. So I even called the park superintendent and said, I can tell you, I walked this myself. I measure my steps. I know this isn't 10 miles. And I said, do you have any evidence of this? And she said, no, not really. I don't know how that came about. So here's another example of an idea, probably maybe even the person who owned this, which was a private individual for really more than 100 years, may have said it was 10 miles so that when he could sell it to the state for a state park, he could get more money out of it. There are some really interesting places to see along this. Of course, is the famous governor's mansion that Chris Christie was photographed on the beach when the park was closed when he had a dispute with the legislature. But there's also this really great judge's shack. It was actually built in 1911, but was moved to this site in 1942, owned by a judge, which gets its name. The shack is not open, but it's a wonderful, spooky, scary, unusual place. I'm walking along the beach and I look up and I see this wonderful shack, and it just I felt like I had traveled back 100 years in time. And then the other part about Island Beach that is particularly wonderful is on the bay side, where Spizzle Creek is. You can walk back to a bird line, and they have lots of wildlife on the bay side, in particular, this osprey. And you can see there's a whole series of osprey nests and nests that are back there. My wife is constantly asking me to go back there to go back out into the blind. You can walk your dog there. We did take our dog, but I would encourage you not to do that because I think you got about 20 ticks in about a 10-minute walk on this. So I'm going to pause here just for a second to see if anybody has any questions about this part of the Jersey Shore from Sandy Hook to Island Beach State Park, which is continuous. You can basically drive and or walk this. You only have to cross the Shark River Inlet between Belmar and Spring Lake, and the inlet between Manasquan and Point Pleasant, but basically you can walk the rest of the way. Any questions?
I don't see any questions in the chat so far.
All right. Well,
so yeah, I think you can keep going for now.
Okay, so we'll be happy to stop at the end and talk about even more. All right, so now when you're at the island, at the end of Island Beach State Park, you can look across a very small inlet, the Barnegat Inlet, and you can see Old Barney at Long Beach Island. But if you want to drive there or get there, other than a canoe or to swim, it's going to take you 45 minutes because you have to go all the way out of Island Beach State Park, all the way across the Tom River, all the way on the Garden State Parkway, and all the way back till you get to Long Beach Island. So Long Beach Island, like a little bit like the North Dover beaches, is a complicated place to figure out who owns what part of the beach, because Long Beach Township actually has 3 different non-contiguous sections. And when you're in La Valette, even though you might think that's its own community, it's actually part of the township. Then later on, you skip three or four beaches and you come to another part of the township where they call themselves, as you can see here, Long Beach Township, where there's beach patrol. And then you go through Beach Haven, which is its own community. And finally, you wind up in Holgate, which Holgate is yet another part of Long Beach Island, or Long Beach Township. So if you buy a beach badge for Long Beach Township, you can actually use it in all 3 of those beaches, but you almost have to drive from one to another if you want to use it. Here's also an example of Long Beach Island. Everybody says Long Beach Island is 18 miles long. Every website, every book that's ever been written, I think about it on maps, it's 18 miles. It's not 18 miles. It's 18 miles from where the concrete starts at Old Barney to where the concrete starts in Holgate, but 3 more miles of the island where there's no road add up to 21. So it's a 21-mile island, but it is commonly known by everybody as the 18-mile island. Go figure. So I'm walking on, this is my walk. Now at this point, I've walked every beach, one end to the other. Now I get to Holgate, Long Beach Island, or Long Beach Township, and I come to this sign which says, keep away. And this is the Edwin Foresight Wildlife Area. And from during the summer, from basically Memorial Day to September 1st, really, I guess it's June 1st to September 1st, this area is completely closed to the public. There's fencing that goes all the way to the sand for nesting of birds, particularly the piping plovers. So I got to this point and I realized, well, and I even called the Foresight Center and said, you know, I'm doing this story and would you let me? And they said, no, can't walk there. But I did have an opportunity to go back on September 5th and I walked there, and it's just an amazing beach. 3 miles of there's no roads, no access. There's a couple of trucks there, and you can see the Rutgers. Here's an example. You can see from the beach, the ocean beach, across to the bay, and then all the way to the Rutgers research facility that is not too far actually from Tuckerton if you go down Great Bay Boulevard. It's a really terrific beach. If you're looking for an opportunity to explore a part of the shore you haven't seen, I would highly, highly recommend going there now. We happened to go on the day when the hurricane was way offshore and the giant waves were breaking, and it was, as the giant waves broke, it was truly a breathtaking day. So then separated from Long Beach Island on the next part, and that's really beginning the southern part of the Jersey Shore, along with, I think this section is really the most pristine beach on the shore, and that is the Bass. It is the park in North Brigantine that is actually administered by the Bass River State Forest. So as you come to the northern part of Brigantine on North 14th Street, you reach a point where there are no more roads. You walk a half a mile on what is still the city of Brigantine's beach, and then there's a mile where you can walk further, and trucks, fishing trucks and some beach buggies can go along there. But then you reach a point where you can't go any further. Because the tides, particularly at high tide, prevent, they come right up to the shoreline, and the trucks would have to be crunching over small birds, and we don't want them to do that. This is actually a picture of an old life-saving station that was uncovered on the right through when one of the recent storms, and these are just pilings that exist there. And if this picture on the left, it was happened to be a slightly foggy day, and I just felt like I was alone in the world for a couple of hours. It was a wonderful opportunity. This again is the North Brigantine section of Brigantine Island. Okay, so I continue my walk south of Brigantine, as we all know, is Atlantic City, followed by Ventnor, followed by Margate. And so I'm walking, and this was a long day. I actually started in the northern part. I drove to Brigantine. I walked the entire island of Brigantine. I took a break. I continued walking in Atlantic City and Ventnor. Well, this is a whole day. This is a whole day. I think I walked 15 miles that day. And I get to this section of the beach, and I know I'm in Margate. And I think, what's the most famous thing in Margate? Why can't I see it? How can I not see the most famous attraction on the Jersey Shore, the oldest roadside attraction in the Jersey Shore? It turns out it's because of these two tall buildings, so that when you're walking on the beach, you can't see the famous attraction that everybody knows throughout the world, but it has a really unique view from the beach, and that's Lucy the elephant. And Lucy is staring out over this gift shop, and it's truly scary. It's so different from all the other pictures I had seen, and I a long day. I wasn't sure if I was maybe hallucinating or I was just tired, but this is one of my favorite pictures and moments of my entire walk on the Jersey Shore. And this is Lucy the elephant. You must see it by walking to the beach and looking straight back at that great figure. The other thing I learned, I had in my book, I talk about a couple of piers, and I talk about the fishing piers in this case. I separate the piers of the Jersey Shore into two categories. There's the amusement piers, like we know in Atlantic City or Ocean City or Pleasant, Asbury Park, Seaside Heights, Wildwood, but the piers that don't have amusements on them, there's two fishing piers. One of them, the one here on the right, is the Ventnor fishing pier, and it's the only one that's open to the public. It's open all year round. And then there's one in Belmar, which is owned by a private club that doesn't allow, isn't even taking new members. Nobody can go out there except existing members. And I've never seen anyone on the pier my entire life, anytime I've been there. But what I found interesting was, I thought I knew the shore. It turns out there are a heck of a lot more piers that open up to the shore than just there. There's a pier here in Ocean Grove that, fortunately, they hope to start work next summer on extending this pier all the way out into the ocean. This pier used to be over the water, but with storms and with all the efforts to add more sand, it's actually shrunk. So now it doesn't reach to the water, and hopefully the Ocean Grove Camp Meeting Association will rectify that next summer and build a longer pier there. There's this Anglers Club in Margate, another private beach pier, not open to the public and not accepting new members. Actually, I'm sorry, Anglers is. This is the Ocean Fishing Club pier on the right. You can't walk on it, but you can apparently hang your hammock there. And then this is a wonderful pier also in Avalon, again private. And then last, there's a pier like the one in Ocean Grove that sort of just ends in Wildwood Crest. It ends a long way before it reaches the water. And hopefully someday they will extend that pier out into the water so that the fishermen can enjoy that. One of the things I also enjoyed about my walk, as I mentioned, I walked with my wife, I walked with my dog sometimes, I walked with my aunt who helped me edit all my stories. And I also walked with some friends. And this was someone who contacted me through Facebook, who turns out we are distant relatives. And she said, when you come to Stone Harbor, you have to walk with me, Eileen Skoltetti. And we walked all of Stone Harbor Beach. And she left me at the very end where the Stone Harbor Beach ends with development, but continues on. So at the very end of Stone Harbor Beach, there's the Stone Harbor Preserve, which Google Maps somehow thinks is mostly submerged. So I walked this beach, and the little blue dot on the right is me with my phone and Google Maps, and it shows me in the middle of the water. But on the left, it shows me almost in North Wildwood because the beach extends much further. And that's because over time, the sand has on that island, on the Long Island, includes Avalon and Stone Harbor, is extended all the way to the south and added sand so that now it's to the point where you can easily swim if you wanted across from Stone Harbor to North Wildwood. And North Wildwood has my favorite walkway. You can walk on obviously boardwalks all over, and there's famous ones, but this one is a crazy walkway that's built very narrowly without handrails on the northern part on North Wildwood, and people run on this walk. My aunt, who is a little bit older, walked up there, and she walked for about a couple hundred yards, and she said, this just doesn't feel right to me because the ocean's on one side, you can fall off on the other one on top of the seawall. But for a really interesting view of Wildwood, I would highly recommend going up to the Anglesey neighborhood of North Wildwood, Anglesey being the name that was the predecessor to North Wildwood, and take a walk until you reach the main boardwalk in Wildwood. And then I come to the very end of Wildwood Crest, and I find my second place where I'm stopped. So this was in July, and I see this, and you see we have a very nice volunteer who's telling people, I'm sorry, you can't walk on this beach. This is 2 Mile Beach on Wildwood, the Wildwoods Island. It is at the very southern tip of Diamond Beach, which is a small beach. And 2 Mile Beach is actually 1 mile that is run by the Cape May Bird Observatory and 1 mile that's owned by the Coast Guard. So it is closed from April 1st to September 30th. And of course, because I walked the beach on the southern tip of Long Beach Island, I had to go back and I had to walk this beach as I did fairly recently. And this is a wonderful, beautiful section of the beach. You can see the northern part of the Cape May Inlet, the jetty there in the distance. And I'm going to tell you a secret. I will deny that I ever told you this. You can walk a mile, and then there are a number of signs from the Coast Guard that say, no, 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 you're not allowed to on this beach. So I was with my wife, and a friend, and we were, okay, we're not going to walk the beach. But then I saw a whole bunch of people who continued to walk it. And then I was in the water of the Cape May Inlet, and people walk it. So even though the Coast Guard's telling you, do not walk on this beach, I think you can walk there without impunity. So I don't encourage you to do it, but feel free if you want to walk and be wild and venturesome down to the northern part of the northern jetty of the Cape May Inlet. So I ended my walk with appropriately with plovers on the beach in Cape May. And this is as I'm walking along Cape May Point State Park, the Lighthouse State Park, and the Cape May Observatory. See these plovers and I see these dolphins. And it was only the second time I ever saw dolphins on my whole walk. And this is actually one of the best places to find dolphins, right? Right by the lighthouse. Just walk out to the beach, walk around to where the point where you can see the Delaware Bay waters merging with the Atlantic Ocean, and there's a swirl of waves and crazy currents, and the dolphins love to fish there. It's a great place to see it. You can also find yoga there, right in front of the lighthouse. That's what happened to me in the morning. And then the last thing that when you walk around the tip and start back up the Delaware Bay is a great place to see the sunset at Sunset Beach in Cape May. And so that was a little bit more than actually 139 miles when I walked around, but I had a wonderful opportunity to explore the beach like I hadn't ever envisioned. And I don't necessarily encourage you to go out and do it, but I would encourage you to find a beach, go to the northern tip, walk to the southern tip, and learn a little bit about it as you go along. You can find more about every town I walked along, every little beach, every little wildlife area on JerseyShoreWalk.com. And next year I'm going to update it with some looking at the Bayside or the lakes and the rivers on the other side of the ocean in each of those wildlife areas. So let me pause here for questions. I'm going to jump into some holiday happenings at the Jersey Shore. after this. Does anyone have any questions?
That's such a cool way to end your walk, RC, just with that sunset.
I love it. Yeah.
We have a comment about Lucy the elephant. Someone mentioned that she is undergoing renovations and should be open in 2022, they believe.
Yes, they're hoping she'll be open in May. Right now, she's under scaffold.
Gotcha. Okay.
Lucy's exterior was in trouble. So fortunately, they have a major grant to upgrade the exterior. Really, that's all they're doing. It's just sort of making sure she doesn't fall apart. You know,
Right.
Lucy's one of there originally were 3 elephants, another one in Cape May and another one in Coney Island. It was a way for developers to draw attention, and that's how they got people to first visit Margate. It's the oldest
Cool.
roadside attraction in America.
Very cool. Didn't know that there were 2 others.
Well, they're not there anymore.
Well, not anymore. Yeah, but originally. I actually had a question. What's the longest stretch of walking that you did during this whole thing without stopping or taking a break? How many miles did you go?
You know what? I think Atlantic City to Longport, the Absecon Island.
Okay.
That's a haul. That's a really haul. I think that's like 9 miles.
Oh, wow.
One end to the other. Now, my rule was I didn't always have to walk on the beach as long as I could see the ocean. So sometimes I would walk on the boardwalks and the walkways to vary my walk and to change my shoes. I found that certain shoes are great for walking on the beach, and certain shoes are better to walk on the boardwalks and the promenades and the walkways along there. And then I should tell you, I didn't have it in here, but there's one little boardwalk. I didn't even know it was there till I happened to actually, I think, have to go and get a drink for a second and pause. And that's in Avalon. They have a small boardwalk. You can't see the ocean, but it's right on the other side of the dunes. And it's just for about a mile. And it's a really great little walkway.
Very cool. And that's exciting that you're continuing this journey around the Delaware too.
Well, not on the Delaware. No, I'm going to just look on the bay side of individual beaches. So in Sandy,
okay.
So Seabright, like, what's it like on the riverside? Or in
Sure.
City, what can you do on the bay? Or I want an Osprey boat tour that goes from Cape May up to almost Stone Harbor. I've done it several times. That explores the marshes on the backside, if you will, of Wildwood and Cape May.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant like the Delaware Bay side.
No, I'm not going to do that. Well, you can't walk. It's harder. You can't really walk it continuous either. The beach doesn't exist all the way up and down the Delaware Bay.
That's very true. Right.
All right. So let me buzz through this Christmas stuff and holiday stuff real quick. Okay. So you can enjoy this. So holidays at the shore. So as Angie mentioned, 12 days of Christmas, December 11th to the 12th. Lots of fun activities. And it's great to know that it's every day, starts at noon. So it's easy to remember, 12 days, 1st to 12th, noon every day. One of the best places to enjoy the holidays is the Physic Estate and the trolley tours that are sponsored by Cape May MAC, which used to be called Mid-Atlantic Cultural Resources, but it's now Museum Arts Culture. They have a tree lighting at the Physic Estate on the 20th. They have some great trolley tours and house tours, all the glitters, Santa's trolley, the Ghosts of Christmas Past, and they have a very, very, very popular Christmas candlelight house tours that only has 3 nights, and you get to go to individual private homes. If you're interested in that, you need to book it right now because they're going to sell out. They don't have an unlimited number of people who can come. Also at the Physic Estate is a old-fashioned Christmas exhibit inside the Carol Gallery, right outside of the estate, with some model trains and toys. A really great place. The igloos are back at Congress Hall in Cape May at Congress. These are heated winter white outdoor dining. And this was a huge hit last year. I did a story and it went viral on my website and it got 120,000 views. So if you have any interest in dining at the igloos, it just opened for dining without a hotel reservation as well. So you can dine just in the igloo. Beach Plum Farms, also in Cape May, has these great dinners, these wonderful, in the heated hoop house. I had an opportunity to do that over the holidays last year, a whole dining series, and it's much of what they offer at the part of the dining is what they grow on the farm. It's all very fresh, all wonderful food. Storybook Land outside of Atlantic City has a Fantasy of Lights, November 13th to December 30th. This is actually their most popular time of the year. It's great for kids who all the storybook houses are lit up. 1 million lights. They're open weekends now, but then they starting this weekend, and then from December 5th, they're going to be open daily. And they had a lot of restrictions last year about the number of people that could have it, but there should be at full tilt this year. Take the kids or the grandkids to see this for sure. Holiday in the Park at Six Flags also opens in 2 weeks. Santa's Workshop, the rides are open. This is a little bit more for teenagers, but also as an opportunity just for some great Christmas lights. And the PNC Arts Center up in the northern part of the shore also is back pretty soon with driving through this in your car with the big finale at sunset. Some special exhibits not too far from Tuckerton is historic Alair Village right off the Garden State Parkway. They're having December 5th, 12th, and 19th. On Sunday is their special Christmas at the Historic Village, and then they have evening lantern tours on the Saturday before each of those weekends. And then Surflight Theater over on Long Beach Island has Ebenezer, a musical Christmas carol from December 4th to 19th. They have pioneered operating successfully and COVID-free throughout really the last year and a half. So I applaud them and their efforts and encourage you to enjoy their performances. Also at Historic Cold Springs Village near Cape May, they have a Wassail Day, which is a big hit down there. You get to visit their open air living history museum. And then shopping, Alair Village also has a holiday craft show. The 13th, LBI Foundation has a big market on Saturdays. And then these holiday bazaars are in Asbury Park and Longbridge in Atlantic City. And what the bazaars are is they bring in a whole bunch of vendors, and the vendors are selling Christmas things. So if you go to Asbury Park in the hotel, there may be 20 vendors selling Christmas gifts and crafts. And also the Santa's Viking Village on Long Beach Island is having a special Christmas event November 28th. And what better place to shop is the 60 Shops of Historic Smithfield, where you can ride the train and talk to the tree and see a light show at night. And they also have a Holiday Dickens Fest, the 27th and 28th. This is also a very popular time, one of the most popular times of the year there. So plan ahead, check to see if any of these places need a reservation, because I'm sure people are trying to get out there and see things. I was in Cape May this summer and I couldn't believe how busy it was. And so many places on the shore were so busy. So make your reservation now. So again, thank you for listening to this. As a great holiday gift is the 100 Things to Do at Jersey Shore book, which I sell online. And if you buy it from my website at 100thingsjerseyshore.com, I'll send you an email and ask you how you would like for me to autograph it. And then I will mail it to you. Again, 100thingsjerseyshore.com. And thank you, Tuckerton Seaport Baymans Museum, for having me again. And I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, RC, and thanks for that that end just to recap some of the holiday stuff that's going on. Some of that I didn't know about, so thank you.
Sure.
All right. We do have another questions in the chat. Did you see any sharks while you were walking?
I did not see any sharks. I think it is very. I think the sharks are almost more of a myth. I mean, I shouldn't say that, because of course there are some out there. I mean, I just listened to a fascinating podcast about the sharks in Cape Cod, but the sharks are looking for seals. You're not going to find seals in the summer on the shore. Typically, they've all moved north, and I think it's very, very rare. Funny story is that I kayaked in the river in the Shrewsbury and the Navsink, and there were these manta rays that look kind of like sharks. They have a fin, and they were around a lot last summer, and there was supposedly a shark sighting, which just was the fin. And somebody called the police department in Rumson, and then the Rumson Police Department said, "We have a shark sighting," and the shark sighting was just somebody telling them that maybe they saw a shark, but not that they ever saw it. So no sharks. Lots of dolphins. I mean, lots of osprey, lots of birds, plovers, I love the oyster catchers too that we saw up and down the shore.
Yeah, I was gonna kind of go on that if you saw any other unique wildlife encounters along your way, whether it was in the water or, on the dunes.
Not too much on the dunes. I would tell you really where you see the wildlife in my experience is more on the bay side. And when I say that, I mean, at Island Beach State Park, there were a handful, you see seagulls, maybe a few other shorebirds, but boy, if you just walked across the dune to over there to where the bay is, the bird life is amazing. So I think that's one thing I learned, that often along the river, along the bays and the inlets, that's where the wildlife are. And of course, the wildlife are there because that's where the fish are easier to catch.
Mm-hmm.
We have a couple of near Seabright. We have a couple of pairs of eagles, and we've enjoyed watching them raise they had a baby last year they raised, and then this year again they raised another baby, and we see them flying all the time. And I was just out on as I mentioned, an osprey boat a couple weeks ago that leaves from Cape May. We probably saw 20 different varieties of all kinds of birds and wildlife. We saw eagles and osprey, and it was incredible. Cormorants. We even saw a pelican that was
great. Yeah. I'm starting to see pelicans more along the Jersey Shore now myself. I saw a lot when I was in Delaware actually this past summer. So
yeah, they're sort of sneaking up.
They are. Yep.
Sort of fun. You're like, well, that's not, how can that be a pelican? Pelicans aren't here.
All right. Someone said that the book will be a great Christmas gift.
Thank you.
And someone asks, you mentioned several natural beaches along your route, but how much of the coast is undeveloped versus developed? Well, I mean, honestly, you probably have some 80 to 85% that's, well, maybe say, honestly, 80% is developed. I tend to think of that. If you think that there's, 8 miles of, I'll just right off the top of my head, you have 8 miles off of Sandy Hook. You have 10 miles at Island Beach State Park. You have another mile that's between the county park. So that's like 19 miles. You have the southern part of Long Beach Island, which is 3 miles. You have the northern part of Brigantine, which is 3 miles. The 2 miles that are at the bottom of, are at the northern part of Cape May, and the 2 miles that are at the southern part of Wildwood. And then another 1.5 miles or so, even more than that, as you go up in Cape May along the bay. So maybe that's 25 miles. So, well, let's say, that's 80%. So it may be more than you really think, And Island Beach open in winter? Absolutely open in the winter. Yes. It's the only beach, not that I'm a fisherman, not that I have a truck, but you can actually drive if you have a permit, you can drive your truck on that beach all year round. And I would say they don't have a lot. So I say that because it's not like it looks like. Only the very, very southern part of Island Beach is it like that. And they don't charge in the winter as well. And actually in the summer, as long as you have a New Jersey license, you get a discount to get into the park. And it's a great place. I think what's a little confusing there is they probably have like 20 different parking lots, and it's confusing to about know where to park and to see. So pick up a map, and particularly go over on the bay side and walk to where the bird blind is at Spizzle Creek near the very southern tip. And walk the southern, and I would also encourage you to go to the very southern part of Island Beach, park where the last parking lot. And even though it's supposed to be 2 miles, it's really only about 1 mile to go to the inlet. And the inlet is really kind of great. And an old Barney's, just big old giant lighthouse over there in Long Beach Island. And you feel like you can reach across the water and touch it. Any other questions? Well, thank you all for having me. Yeah, thanks so much, RC. I don't think I see anything else in the chat or anyone looking to come off mute. I'll just, before we all sign off, I'll put your 2 websites back into the chat box again, which is the JerseyShoreWalk.com and then the 100 Things to Do at the shore.com, so people can check those out before we sign off today. So Thank you so much for that insight into the whole entire coast. Learned a lot, kind of like some interesting mysteries maybe too, in certain areas. So that's kind of neat. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. This will be up on our YouTube channel. So feel free to share it out, watch it again, share it with those that maybe missed it. And we will see you at the next Lunch and Learn, which again is December 1st, a little earlier than usual. Usually we do these the second, weekend of the month, but so that's just a little bit sooner, and you can register online for that. If you have any questions, just email me at gannon@marine.rutgers.edu. I'll put that in the chat too. And thanks so much, RC. This was a great presentation.
Thank you. All right. Good to see you, everyone.
Good seeing you too. Thank you everybody for attending. Appreciate it.